This morning's message is titled, The Christian Marriage. Let me start by saying that I know I'm not talking just to married couples. Oh, by the way, this is the Valentine's message that was supposed to occur next week. Obviously, God thought you wanted it now. What I'm counting on is you passing on the information you learned this morning, i.e. the names of the books I will showcase to at least one of the married couples you know. They will thank you for your interest in their marriage. Also, God created the minds of men and women very different. A woman's mind can be likened to a bowl of spaghetti where everything is connected. And a man's mind can be likened to a steel drawer file cabinet where you just pull out one drawer at a time and then remove just one file, deal with it, put that back, pull out the next file, and put that back. Therefore, it's safe to say that we don't think alike. This study is on how to overcome those differences and actually enjoy each other. My focus will be on couples in a marriage situation, but the same concepts that I'm going to be teaching this morning can be used on any male-female relationship or interaction. Let me put it that way. So in other words, the message is for everybody. To start things off, I would like Diana and Amy to help me. We're going to do a quick little skit. The skit is basically for the singles, but it can go for anybody.
Hi, big brother.
Hey, Mom said that she wants to keep you out of the kitchen. Right over there.
Oh.
So, see this? See this?
What?
Whoa. See that?
What?
That's a line, right?
Yeah, I see the line.
You stay on that side of the line.
Why? What's going to happen?
You come to this side of the line, you get a spanking.
Well, that would mean that Mommy would have given you the spoon.
You mean this spoon?
What are you doing with Mommy's spoon? What? You got to give that back.
Nope.
That would mean that you could control the law.
I'm in charge. He who has a spoon gets to make the rules.
Well, they better be just rules.
Hey, who are you dealing with?
My brother.
Oh, let me put him on.
Yes. You forgot.
He's on. I would never make an unjust law.
Well, all right, so I have to do what?
You have to stay on that side of the line. You can't cross over. You do, you get one swat.
All right, well, that sounds pretty just.
And what are you doing so close to the line?
Making sure I don't go over.
Hey, if I were you, I'd be way over there, as far away from that line as I can get.
I'm having fun.
What do you think of that?
Oh, dear.
All right, that's it.
Wait.
Over.
No,
Bend
I
over.
fell. I didn't
Bend
cross
over.
it. I fell down.
Hey,
Mama, he's going to spank me. He's going to spank me, Mama. I fell. I didn't cross it on purpose.
What's that, child? You broke the law and then came to me trying to escape the punishment?
It was an accident.
Pat, give me that spoon. I won't have a child of mine breaking the law and then trying to escape punishment. Diana, running from your punishment earns you another swat.
Thank you, ladies. Oh, by the way, Diana and I have been married for 37 years. Our marriage became much more satisfying on the year 20. What happened is we bought Tommy Nelson's videos on the Song of Solomon, and we learned how God intended us to do marriage. The video series is great for married couples, but Tommy was actually teaching it to singles because the message is one that singles need to learn before they start dating, and definitely before they start courting. For instance, be advised that if you are kissing on the lips, you're playing next to the line. Worse yet, if you're engaged in what we call the French kiss, you're actually standing on the line. Talk about a recipe for disaster. For you who think I'm just blowing smoke, what we now call the French kiss appears only once in the Bible. For those who want to look it up, the reference can be found in the Song of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse 11. The chapter 4, we find Solomon undressing his bride in the bridal chamber on their wedding night. Yes, they're married. They're not just living together. I might add that the author expects us to be able to fill in what happens between verses, and the actual text is only a verbal expression of describing how he, Solomon, feels about what just happened. In other words, what he's saying to his wife is what is recorded, and the audience is supposed to be able to conjure up an image of the events being talked about. Let me do that for you by drawing the action picture from out of my imagination. First, he starts by rolling back her veil and then begins undressing her by undoing her hair. In agricultural terms, he then describes how beautiful her hair is, and because they lived in an agricultural community, and we do too, we can probably relate. So he referred to her hair as a flock of goats. For us, it's probably a little. But for them, the reference was one of great wealth. Today, we would make that same type of reference to a bolt of silk material, or even better yet, one of spun gold. We're talking about really fine. Next, he moves on to looking at and describing her beautiful teeth. You know that smile? Well, actually, they didn't have dentists in those days, so he was just happy that they were all there. Teeth aren't real exciting, so he quickly moved on to her lips. Now, a woman's lips, ooh, that is exciting. And evidently, he did get carried away, and he decides to place a kiss on them. You know, a peck. Well, in my imagined version of the story, he gets to her lips, and he gets ready to plant that perfect Prince Charming kiss. But having played by the rules and practiced restraint in dating and courting, she has so much pent-up passion. And now here she is married, and her handsome Prince Charming husband is telling her how beautiful she is, since there's nothing more exciting to a woman than hearing she is beautiful in the eyes of her husband. She grabs a hold of him and pulls him to her and thrusts her tongue into his mouth. And then she takes and sucks his tongue into her mouth. And so, while struggling for breath, Solomon must have been thinking about how he was going to describe what just occurred. I get that mental picture based upon Solomon's description of the kiss in verse 11, which reads, "Your lips, O my spouse, drip as the honeycomb. Honey and milk are under your tongue, and the fragrance of your garments is like the fragrance of Lebanon." Needless to say, that kiss kicks things into high gear, and just 6 verses later, the marriage is consummated. It worked that way 3,000 years ago, and it still does today. My point is, a Hebrew kiss leads to even more intimate forms of sex. Just kissing on the lips is dangerous. But a Hebrew kissing, it becomes a question of not if, but when you fall into sexual sin. I caution you, do not use the Hebrew kiss unless you are married to the person you are kissing. The reason the proper name for it is a Hebrew kiss is the Song of Solomon. The book, the Song of Solomon, predates the founding/establishment of the country of France by 2,000 years. So much earlier. Having said that, I would like to point out that on the screen is a graphic depicting the start of a Christian marriage. It starts with the words, "I do," and then the words, "You may kiss the bride." This begins a 3-sided relationship. The reason the relationship is 3-sided is, as Christians, both husband and wife already have a joint relationship with their Maker, and now they're just making a relationship with each other too. Pastor Tommy Nelson says it this way: unquote. God invented marriage because he knew that in order for us to do it well, we would need him, unquote. That is because if we want to get closer to each other, we must first get closer to him. Yes, it's just that easy. If we as a couple practice love and respect, as the Bible teaches love and respect, we will draw closer to God, and then, of course, closer to each other. The frustration is that the very thing which keeps a couple from achieving the happily ever after type of life is the lack of love and respect. I will try to give meaning to that frustration by talking about my two hands. I love and respect my two hands, but I'm right-handed. So my dominant or most loved and respected hand is my right one. My left is better known as the supportive hand, although both hands were created equal in God's sight. The unique wiring from my brain has resulted in some very distinct differences. In the case of my dominant hand, it has become stronger, i.e. more respected. Number two, more skilled, even more respected. And number three, by default, more valued and protected or loved. For instance, I've never had a black and blue thumbnail on my right hand. For that matter, neither on my right big toe. But on my supportive foot and my supportive hand, they're both perceived as weaker, less skilled, and less valuable. Over the years, I've come to value my left hand more. And now, when I start pounding on a nail, I will hold it with a pair of needle-nose pliers. My thumb is very appreciative of that. Thus, a missed swing no longer results in a damaged thumb. I also try to remember to get my left foot out of the way, which I tend to forget. And sometimes when I dump the wheelbarrow, I wear sandals in the summer and I've had a black toenail. Now let's look at a different set of hands. Actually, two sets, to be specific. As you can see, the dominant label has switched to self, and the label supportive has switched to spouse. I'm sure that you know the Bible's instruction for dealing with self. It's to kick it off the throne. This morning's message is going to be the same. As you can see from this screen, the study is on Ephesians 5, verses 22 to 33. Please turn there. The slide on the screen does not include all the verses. Therefore, I need you to follow along in your Bibles while I read. The verses give specific instruction about how the Christian marriage is supposed to look. That look is meant to portray to the world a picture of Christ and the church. When our marriages do that, we have an automatic audience willing to hear what we have to say about Jesus. Everybody there? All right. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is head of the head of the wife, as also Christ is head of the church. And he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the church is subject to Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of the water of the word, that he might present her to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she should be holy and without blemish. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies, for he who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it just as the Lord does the church. For we are members of his body, of his flesh, and of his bones. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. The slide on the screen breaks down the passage into two key words. Those action words, I said action words, love and respect. How come God tells the husband to love and the wife to respect? Why didn't he tell the husband to respect and the wife to love? The answer is because the wife can't live without love, and the husband can't live without respect. Going back to Christ and the church, We so need his love, and he is to be respected. In trying to understand that statement, let's go to the dictionary and see and get the definition of those two words. You can read it. From the time that I was no longer taught just by women, all the men in my life taught me how to respect. My dad, Boy Scout leaders, sports coaches, co-workers, bosses, and John Wayne movies all modeled respect. They did so in a way that encouraged me to achieve greatness. From earlier still, since before she could walk, Dinah's mother and others taught her to love. That instruction on love was all about how to nurture and protect those receiving that love and to create a non-threatening environment for them to grow in. The need for love and respect continues as long as we live. In fact, a man's need for respect is so great that a news article about the TV show Beverly Hills Housewife reported that just prior to committing suicide, Russell Armstrong had said to his mother, "I just can't face that show. They're going to rip me up." The article went on to report that Russell was facing financial crisis, and what bothered him most was his wife filing for divorce. Being confronted by the ultimate lack of respect, he decided to end it all. Like it or not, the fact is, no one on this earth holds the power over man, over a husband, that a wife does. She has the power to make him or break him. Sadly, Russell Armstrong's wife decided she was going to break him, and he died. The man who is respected accomplishes much. He who feels disrespected just gets angry and spirals down into nothing. The same way, the wife who is loved, why, she blossoms and becomes a thing of beauty, while the one who feels unloved withers and just turns into a fussy old lady. Thus, in Ephesians, God commanded husbands to love and wives to respect. So how do we actually turn those commands into action? Because love is more than just a desire, but a desperate need for the wife. She has no trouble showing love to others. On the other hand, respect, it's not so great a need for her. Thus, she is tempted to let those skills, communication skills, languish. And often she isn't even aware that she's projecting disrespect. For the husband, it's the opposite, because he can't live without respect. He's very sensitive to that character attribute. He would only show a lack of respect to someone he considers an enemy. He would heap on the disrespect while trying to crush him. Thus, when a man's wife shows a lack of respect, the message he's receiving is, "She hates me." This morning, I will recommend 4 books whose authors have used good science to find the practicalities, i.e., study the differences between men and women, to determine why it was necessary for God to command husbands to love and wives to respect. The books are also loaded with practical how-to suggestions, citing ways to accomplish those directives, i.e., how to love, on, and respect your spouse. There will be a slide shown at the end of the study. Actually, we're going to have communion this morning, so it will be at the end of the song following communion. And the slide has a list of the books I am recommending, and can be, at that time, you can copy down the list. By the way, the books make an excellent wedding gift. Just an excellent wedding gift. After the Bible, the most important book and the gift to give away first, the place everyone should start reading is the book titled His Needs, Her Needs by Dr. Willard F. Harley Jr. This book describes a good job of explaining marital needs, as only a top-notch Christian psychiatrist can. This guy studied. The conscientious doctor introduces the concept of a love bank. What he claims is we all keep book on each other. Our subconscious love tank for an individual builds when they commit acts of kindness and shrinks when we perceive that they've hurt us. We all have people in our life who have negative balances. And unless we have made it a spiritual goal, which we're supposed to be doing, to try loving them in the name of Jesus, we try to avoid interacting with them. We, of course, like to hang out with those who have positive balances in our love banks. When we eventually get married, it's to a person with a huge positive balances in our love bank. It is with them that we decide to pursue the happily ever after relationship. As long as we and our spouse continue to put more positive than negative experiences into that bank, we will achieve that goal. However, relationships need to be maintained, and if we or our spouse begin to coast, when that happens, the marriage will get into trouble. Making positive deposits can only happen if you know how. Therefore, Dr. Willard has identified the 10 needs that both parties are looking to be satisfied within a marriage. He lists what he calls her top 5 needs and his top 5 needs. In reality, God gave us all 10. So, guys, don't think that you don't have all 10, and ladies, don't think you don't have all 10. But because the 10 needs are actually just subsets of love and respect, we have different priorities. So if it's a lady, it looks like this. If it's a man, it looks like that. When I first got married, I offered Diana my top 5 respect needs, thinking I was meeting her top 5 needs. But that wasn't the case. What I was actually doing was meeting her respect needs 6 through 10. So here's her needs down here, and here's mine up here. Had I been meeting my wife's top 5 love-based needs, I would have loved and served her as Christ does the church. Those needs are affection, conversation, honesty and openness in conversation, financial support, and family commitment. In the same way, my wife were to concentrate on meeting her husband's top 5 respect-based needs, she would actually be showing respect to Jesus Christ and to her husband at the same time. Those needs are sexual fulfillment, recreational companionship, an attractive spouse, domestic support, and admiration. Ephesians 5:23 says, "For the husband is head of the wife, as also Christ is head of the church, and he is Savior of the body." Thus, the wife who shows her husband disrespect is actually doing so to Jesus, since that's who her husband represents. I hear some of you saying, "Pat, but you don't know my husband. He doesn't act anything like Jesus." My reply is, that verse is not conditional. God expects you to act like Sarah in the Old Testament. 2 times in Genesis 12 and again in Genesis 20. Abraham, and his name was Abram, so that was the bad Abraham, asked her to pose as his sister, and each time she ended up being taken as another man's wife because she put her trust in God and not in her husband. God made sure that she was able to remain pure in her marriage vows. He had made Abraham and prevented her from the vows that she had made to Abraham, and God prevented her from being sexually defiled. Thus, Genesis records that Abraham, or Abram, as he was named at that point, was in sin, but Sarah was not. Her respectful submission to her husband is what gave God the opportunity to hold Abram accountable for his sin, and thus brought around a change in him. Okay, ladies, brace yourself. You are not responsible for changing your husband. In fact, if you do, you're only getting in God's way. God can do that job so much better. It's up to God to do the changing. All you have to do is respect. That's all you have to do. I'm sure that some of you are saying, "I still don't get it." Well, let me explain. from his needs, her needs, we get the 10 needs list, which you can look at. For instance, I can demonstrate that that I love her by showing her affection. After God, there should not be anyone or anything in my life that I give more attention to than my wife. The book For Men Only by professional data analyst Shanti Fieldham and her husband Jeff says, listen closely, quote, that women have an underlying insecurity about whether their man really loves them. When that latent insecurity is triggered, they are often preoccupied with getting the relationship back on track. That insecurity manifests itself with them asking the question, do you love me? That is even after you told her that morning, I love you, unquote. Okay, I'm looking at the blank looks in the men, and you're no doubt thinking, boy, can I relate. But hey guys, there's more. Quote, they also take your need for space as a signal that you're upset and trying to get away from them. They also insist on talking about relationships during the times that you least want to, unquote. The advice from the book, which was written after crunching the survey answers of thousands of women, said, quote, reassure her that you love her. If you need space, say something that will ease her mind, like I need space right now, but I want you to know that we're okay, unquote. Showing affection is actually reassuring your wife that you love her by lavishing her with your attention. Some examples of showing affection are place a text from your heart on a sticky note in a spot where she will find it during the day, like her lunchbox. Number 2, make a quick phone call or text telling her that you're thinking of her. Sign off that text with I love you. Okay, number 3, personally deliver flowers with a card on an unspecial occasion, such as an unbirthday. So 364 unbirthdays, remember? So you got lots of places to pick a date. You might start out with a goal of once every 3 months. And I realize that some of you guys have really low skills in the romance department. Let me assure you that despite the fact that you do not think of yourself as Romeo, your wife wants to be treated as if she were Juliet. So that's why I said personally deliver the flowers. Don't have them sent. And doing so makes a huge impact. To help you, I have left instructions on the back, that back table back there, explaining how to field dress 24 roses in the parking lot. You buy them from the grocery store. You can buy the flowers. You can buy the vase, and don't forget the card, and then some water, because flowers don't last long out of water. And you can field dress them in the trunk of your car or the bed of your pickup or whatever. And then you seatbelt them in and drive them there and deliver them. Remember this. All of the things you give in such a way as to provide the appearance of spontaneity are counted as affection. By all means, do not forget the special occasions, as if you do. The message she receives is, he doesn't love me. Note, I said giving the appearance of spontaneity. For the cold, calculating male, that may take some doing. And it could be work at first. Just think of it as a continuation of what you did when you were courting your wife. Now that you know better, surprising her / keeping her off balance should be easier and a whole lot more rewarding. Be informed. For us, the statement, I do, we heard her say on our wedding day, was a done deal. Yeah, that was it. For our wives, it's a different thing. She's always worried he will divorce me for burning a meal. Now, page 30 of the For His Eyes Only says that, quote, 7 out of every 10 women said their relationship and how their man felt about them was anywhere from occasionally to nearly always on their mind, unquote. I know that sounds crazy to us guys, but it's not. Considering that during the times that the Old Testament was written, burning a meal was on that list of just causes for divorce. And today, all we need to say is, irreconcilable differences? Maybe, just maybe, that nightmare isn't so far-fetched. To calm my wife's nerves, many times a day I verbalize the words to her, Diana, I love you. At first, I didn't understand her need, and it was hard to do. I now understand that her need for constant affirmation of my love is real. Now I make the effort to romance my wife and even consider it as a fun aspect of my perpetual hunt for her. Ladies, from Shante Fieldhome's book, For Women Only, comes some insight about his number one respect need, that of sexual fulfillment. On page 92, the book appears this statement, quote, for your husband, sex is more than just a physical need. Lack of sex is an emotionally serious to him as, say, his sudden silence would be to you, unquote. Page 93 of the book says, quote, making love with you assures him that you find him desirable, salves a deep sense of loneliness, and gives him the strength and well-being necessary to face the world with confidence, unquote. What's that, you might ask? The truth is, the world is a lonely place for a man. The only place where he is free to show his true emotions is with his wife. In any other setting, his competition, always another man, will use any emotional display as a knife to stab him. His motivation is to slow him down so he can get ahead. Another great book, His Brain, Her Brain, by Walt and Barbara Larimore, delves into the differences in the designs of the male and female brains. The book is a fascinating read, and it explains the biology behind our divinely created differences. God created men and women equal before him, but best suited for very different roles. Among the many differences is the way that we are wired. Another is our hormonal makeup, which gives us those strong urges to act the way we do. My wife, whose mind is always multitasking, was astounded when she read the book and learned that when stressed out, I had the ability to go to my nothing place and just veg out. Since Diana, now a manager, has work-related stress, and when I vegged out, I could just veg out and stress would be gone. So she's now the manager, she's under stress, and having read the Her Brain, His Brain book, His Brain, Her Brain book, I decided to start helping Diana with her stress handling capability by letting her vent in a safe place. I now talk to her often about her work, having learned that Diana can only handle stress, only get stress relief by talking about the problems she faces, has encouraged me to lovingly meet that need by providing her a listening ear. Well, listening ear / psychiatrist couch. That simple action has really deepened her love for me. Yes, guys, you heard it right. God gave women the ability to get a dopamine rush when they talk. Men don't get that same hormonal rush from talking. In fact, talking is a lot of work for us. Looking at the slide on the screen, it becomes obvious that the dopamine rush is so pleasurable to a woman that talking is her number 2 and number 3. So, her number 2 and her number 3. They're both talking. She desperately wants her husband to talk to her some and actively listen to her lots. And she wants that conversation to be deep down at the feeling level. Because she has a high level of oxytocin in her body, she also wants her hand held or to be hugged while talking to you. Guys, just for the record, she's going to want you to pay attention to her even when you aren't experiencing an oxytocin high. Advice for those times when you lack the hormonal boost, and there's one time when a man does get the hormonal boost, and you can read about it yourself. But this advice comes from page 101 of the book, His Eyes Only. It says, quote, she doesn't want you to fix it. She wants you to hold your hand and listen, unquote. The book goes on to say, quote, and what does that mean anyway? Does she keep saying that you're not listening when you have already been listening to her for half an hour, unquote? The His Eyes Only fix, quote, Guys, pay attention real close. Quote, when she is sharing an emotional problem as opposed to, say, the car has a flat tire, what she is feeling about the problem is actually more important to her than the problem itself, unquote. Number 2, from the book, quote, what she is feeling is actually the real problem. Therefore, listening to her feelings solves the problem, unquote. Here's the advice from me. You can only listen correctly when you do that with your face. Be sure and shut off all your distractions. I've got to shut off the computer. I've got to turn that screen away. If I'm going to be listening to my wife, I've got to do that, and that I've got to look straight into her beautiful eyes, hold her hand, and talk to her. So, in order for her to get the warm and fuzzy that I'm listening, I have to provide feedback. So, that's feedback, words like, oh, that must have hurt, or that sure must have been embarrassing, I feel for you. Now, those will earn you points. Words like, just suck it up, or you need to get tougher. Now, that's going to cost you points. Don't build a doghouse, because you'll be in it. Guys, I know that's a skill that has to be learned. I call it learning to speak woman. Because I've chosen to love my wife as Christ loves the church, I've developed some skill in the feelings arena. Here's a test. You'll know that you are making some progress when you sit down with your wife to watch a PG-rated chick flick. If you find you're actually enjoying it, then you will know that you're making progress in the understanding of feelings. Because if you can understand all the nuances and all the feelings that go on in a chick flick, hey, you guys have arrived. Ladies, just as your number 2 and 3 needs are intertwined, his first 3 needs are interrelated. The old adage, the couple that plays together stays together, still holds true. The reason is, it's so important to be your husband's recreational companion because you have married a hunter. He will hunt something or someone. Make sure that it is you that he is hunting. That's an important point, so I'm going to say it again. Make sure that it is you he is hunting. Whatever you do, make sure you do not hold up a no hunting sign. All right. We're going to get rid of the no hunting and gone hunting graphics, meaning that the wife isn't spending your time anywhere other than in that inner circle. What you have then on the screen is a depiction of what a healthy marriage looks like. The inner circle contains the husband and the wife. The scripture is Ephesians 5:31. It says, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. The one flesh part of the verse has 3 aspects to it: spiritual unity, sexual union, and the establishment of the family unit. There are 3 very good reasons that the husband and wife are all alone in that inner circle. The next circle out contains the children, and the next circle out has the extended family and friends. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother. If I had written the verse for today, I would have written it like this. For this reason, a husband and wife shall each leave their parents and friends and cleave to / spend at least 15 waking hours a week with each other. If you ladies allow someone from any of the outer circles to displace your husband from within that inner circle, you will be posting a no hunting sign and could end up with a missing husband. When you show a lack of respect, i.e. spending time talking with a sister, mother, or girlfriend, I'm not saying you can't do those, but when you spend time that should have been spent with him, you are tearing your own house down with your own hands. Another biggie is when you disrespectfully side with your child in a family argument. When that happens, there will be a real danger of the ideal 3-circle family shrinking to a 2-circle one. My advice for you ladies is commit Proverbs 14, verse 1 to memory. Don't let anyone or anything rob your husband of his time and position with you. You want him to talk with you? Wow! He wants to do things with you. The book For Women Only puts it this way on page 147. Quote, most married men don't want to abandon their wife to do guy things. They want to do guy things with their wife. The woman who is having fun with her husband is incredibly attractive. If you see a woman out playing golf with her husband, I guarantee that the other guys are jealous, unquote. For the sake of clarity, you should know that we always haven't been able to afford green fees. When our kids were young, Diana and I would put the kids in a stroller or wagon or a backpack, and I would carry, push or pull them as we went out for a walk. The extra weight helped slow me down to a pace that Diana could keep, and the walk gave us plenty of time to nurture our friendship. We now have more money, and therefore we have a joint gym membership, and we lift weights together. We've also enrolled in the I Love to Run organization's 1,000-mile challenge, which started on January 1st. The challenge is to run, walk, or crawl 1,000 miles in this next year. If we achieve that goal, we should be very healthy, and it will encourage us to spend even more time together. My left knee tells me that I can't jog, but Diana does. Therefore, astride my mountain bike, set in its very lowest gear, I join her in her early morning jogs during the week. While pedaling, I mean mostly coasting, it's easy for me to talk, and Diana manages to get our words out between the huffs and puffs. My point here is that because I married my best friend, and she has made it a priority to remain my best friend, we have an outstanding marriage. The wife who takes care of her body, dresses for him, and makes herself available to play is actually stroking his desire to both talk to her and shower her with affection. The statement leads to another example from when the kids were little, in that just before I got home from work, Diana would sit them down before a TV and put a 1-hour Disney video in the, I'm going to date myself, VHS player. She would then go into the bedroom, put on a better-looking outfit, brush her hair, put on some makeup, and she would meet me at the door with a kiss and a hug as I walked into the house. Back then, I was the manager. I was the one under huge stress. And during my 30-minute drive home, I'd already begun to relax, but walking through the door and not being met by, oh, honey, the washing machine's broken, but by, good to see you home, that helped me just, that was my castle. I walked in my castle. Since I wore a suit and tie, I would go change to a more casual outfit and return to the kitchen, see a beautiful wife, a snack, and a glass iced tea. With the kids oblivious to my presence, I then got to spend some precious moments with my wife. Ladies, do you see what a picture of a recreational companion is? My recreational companion spends a lot of time with me. And we are engaged in lots of different things. On the screen is just a few of those activities, and I mean just a few. The wife's number 4 need is financial support. We guys think that we have that one figured out, and that means we're supposed to bring home a huge paycheck so we can support her mall habit. Actually, the topic financial support is often misunderstood. That is because inside of every guy is the need to be the one bringing home the huge paycheck. No matter how much our wife makes, if we don't make enough to cover the basic support costs of the family, I mean, that's long term. Everybody has some short-term goals, like going to college, and, you know, the wife puts you through college, and then you go on to make the big paycheck. But if it's long-term, we'll feel unfulfilled. On the other hand, our wife tends to care more about the relational needs of the family than the financial ones. In the making of a buck, her or you interferes with the family, she isn't going to be happy. Remember, if mom is not happy, nobody's happy. What that means is no matter how much money is being made, if she feels trapped by her need to work or never sees you, you won't be given credit. The translation is she values your time more than she values your money. When a job or job starts messing with family time, it's time to reprioritize. Every couple is different, and what worked for us may not work for you. What we did is sacrifice so Dinah could stay home with the kids when they were little. At that point in our life, Dinah helped by babysitting other children. This gave Beth someone to play with, and it helped make ends meet. However, when Beth was approaching the teenage years, you know, those expensive teenage years, and all those extracurricular activities cost money, I told Dinah, get back out into the workplace. Today, my retirement check still covers the basics. Diana's check covers the investments and the frills. Because those expensive teenagers are gone, Diana's current mall habit is focused more on herself and the grandchildren. I jokingly tell my daughter that her kids dress much richer than she does. And I guess that's always the case because her grandmother loves to spoil her still. Moving on to his number 4 need, that of domestic support, he wants you to wait on him when he gets home. In the old days, when all the wives were stay-at-home moms, this was a very reasonable expectation. But hey, guys, if you send her into the workplace, you need to pitch in and help. At the very least, you need to clean up after the meals. Just think, ladies, if he starts helping around the house, you'll have more energy to invest in his needs 1 through 3. Be sure you do. When I retired, my job changed from the kitchen helper to the housekeeper and chef. It was a limited menu at first. I had sent Diana into the workforce and then retired. Therefore, our roles reversed. I do the cleaning of the counters during the week and all that, but I don't do it the same way as she would have. I mean, do I clean as well as she does? That's a resounding no. But Diana has learned to appreciate the effort and not criticize it. Criticizing is a big mistake. By way of example, when I was serving in the Air Force, I was stationed in Korea, and I sent my sister a letter. Well, it was handwritten. It was before computers and spelling checkers. She promptly corrected my spelling and sent it back to me. She never got another letter. To her, it was a loving thing to do, but to me, that was a lack of respect. What I'm saying to you, ladies, is when your husband is performing an act of love, just enjoy it. Had Sandy been patient and waited for the spelling checker to be invented, I would have used it. I knew I couldn't spell. Back to my marriage. On the weekend, I expect my wife to cook. When she has the time to invest in, it gives me the domestic support I crave. The first thing she does is cleans her counters to her specifications. And then she makes breakfast. Both of our love tanks get filled in that way. Her number 5 need is family commitment. Because she is relational and wants her husband involved in the family, she is going to resent any extra time at the office. Guys, you need to do a balancing act. You need to make time to invest in your family. I mean, your kids, they grow up and they're gone. Time spent off camping and fishing with the guys with your son tagging along actually counts against that need. My wife always got warm and fuzzy feelings toward me when I spent any amount of time with the kids, even when she wasn't on the outing. How cool is that? I spent a lot of time off with David, hunting and fishing. His number 5 need is admiration. That can be done through touch, but also needs to be verbal. Considering the differences in wiring, it should be easy for you ladies. The book His Brain, Her Brain tells us that the guys have more of the thinking gray matter. We've got bigger brains than you do. But we can only use half a brain at a time. This one or this one. We can't use them both. But gals have more of the interconnecting white matter. Remember the bowl of spaghetti? I mean, it's all connected. So both sides of their brains are connected at the same time. I would compare that statement to a computer with a central processing unit running at 5 megahertz with lots of random access memory, in other words, lots of smarts, competing with one running at 10 megahertz with just a little bit of RAM. The smaller but faster computer can run circles around the slower but larger one. The book says that while men have trouble keeping up with just one conversation at a time, women can hold 7 conversations at the same time and not get mixed up. Give me 2 conversations? Oh boy. My wife, with her fantastic verbal skills, is constantly telling me how handsome, how strong, how gentle, how good looking, and how capable I am. She's careful always to build me up. It never says anything negative about me in public. never tire of her telling me how strong I am or how good I look. Thanks to the confidence she has given me, I have actually matched her vision. What I'm saying is I've actually acquired the skills that I was credited with having. As one would expect, my first efforts were, as they would say in the South, pitiful. But she cheered me on, and I did better and better. This slide shows some of the things that, there it is, that I've built since I retired. Once again, my encourager has given me the confidence to construct the 3,000 square foot house with a 4-car garage that's shown on the screen, and to do all that wrought iron work and block wall. When we moved into the house, my leisurely retirement began, because I was working 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. First couple months after I moved into the house, I slept. But since then, I've been working on a half-day shift 4 days a week. And I still have years and years ahead of me of landscaping. But behind every successful husband is a wife who lavishes praise and encouragement on him. I have accomplished what I've accomplished because of that. Let me start by summarizing by showing you the picture of a healthy marriage. When a couple puts their hands together in compromise, the two top 5 priority lists get commingled into a single one. This slide shows a renumbering taking place. Her number 1 priority, that of affection, becomes both parties' number 1 priority. And his number 1 priority, that of sex, becomes both parties' number 2. The successful marriage list looks like the one on this slide. Got them all commingled. Guys, I want to point out the fact that Adam was created first and Eve second. It's our responsibility to lead and our wives to follow. Thus, it is your responsibility to put this list into place within your marriage. If your marriage is a failure, hey, I'm blaming you. Are you romancing your wife as you're supposed to be doing? I mean, that's the number 1 need. This brings me to verse 31. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. If the husband loves his wife and her response is to show him respect, they will be modeling verse 32 to the world. Verse 32, this is a great mystery, but I speak concerning Christ and the church. Nothing speaks stronger than our actions. The marriage relationship is the model of Christ and his bride, the church. Throughout the Old and New Testaments are examples of God dealing harshly with those who have modeled poorly. Also, Ephesians 5, verse 25 and 26 say, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for her, that he might sanctify and cleanse her with the washing of water by the word. One thing, the key thing I've always followed is putting God first in our marriage. Verse 26 tells me that I am to wash my wife with the water of the word. Guys, don't let your wife be the one being the spiritual leader. Those are the marching orders, and it's your responsibility to put that policy in place in your marriage. As a final point, when you were dating, I'll bet you spent lots of hours a week meeting each other's needs. The sad statistic driving the high divorce rate is this. After becoming married, far too many couples invest less than 15 hours a week that Dr. Harley says is necessary to maintain a healthy relationship. You don't have to kiss all 15 hours. But your wife will want a few kisses. She also wants other actions to tell her that you are focusing solely on her. Although my wife likes activities that involve talking, Dr. Harley says any activity that allows you to focus primarily on each other qualifies. A stroll down the beach with an occasional stop for a kiss, hey, that's perfect. I'm expecting you to leave here and find your version of the beach. Okay, let's pray. Father, I ask that with your help, every married couple within the sound of my voice be able to focus on getting more of you and of each other. I further ask that their marriages become pure and purer pictures of the relationship between Jesus Christ and the church. My hope is that each couple becomes better models of that marital purity, and that You use them to tell others about you. Amen.